never give up. I never give up. I never give up.
Hi guys, welcome back to Neff Inspiration, my show on YouTube and as a podcast with me, your host, Stephan Neff. Today is a fantastic day for another interview. And I've had a lot of overachievers on my show, people who are just proving that you can go out there, change your life, and do amazing things. And today, my guest is actually going for a podium position in this kind of ranking of guests, because Freddie Bennett is going out there and is proving exactly that. He is a world Guinness Record holder. He is a man who just said, why don't I go for a little run? And now, nowadays, the guy has run through the Sahara Desert. The guy is planning to run through the Arctic Circle, a 300-mile race. You're kidding me. Come on. I can't run for 10Ks without me falling apart. And this guy's just, I can do that. Now, this is a transformation that I want to hear more about. So, Freddie, welcome to my show.
Stephan, welcome. I'm so delighted to be here. I am really super excited about what we're going to talk about today. And I think we're going to cover a lot of interesting topics, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And I have to say, normally we make jokes about me beaming in from the future because my guests are always somewhere far away. Today, it turns out, despite his brutal English accent, this young man is an hour away from me in Tauranga. We are both in New Zealand, and we were just laughing. And what the hell?
It's a small world, isn't it? And thank you as well for starting off by calling me a young man, because people don't often do that these days. But it's crazy, isn't it? Of all the towns and all the world, you had to walk into mine. So it's great to have such an amazing podcast filmed so close to me.
The beautiful thing, though, is I think we both prove with our transformations that so much is possible. That there is this kind of victim mentality that many of us have. Oh, poor me, another one. Actually, that if you realize that we all have got the same amount of seconds in a day, and that if we live intentional, miracles will happen. Now, not everyone has a transformation like you. Okay, so we all have got our own stories, but I want to hear about your story, man. So how did it all start? Or actually, let's go, how did it start minus 10 years? Because who was the executive? Who was the man who was out there trying to prove himself in the world?
Who was the old me?
The old you.
The old me. And I wanted to start as well. You make a great point about how we use the time in our day. And I always say this at the start of my interviews. I've done the crazy things about running across the Sahara Desert and the Arctic and all the things that I know we'll cover. But my story isn't about the extreme challenges. It's not about the crazy endurance events, because I know most people would listen and they say, that sounds crazy. I never want to do that. But for me, it's absolutely about time, and it's how we choose to use the time of our lives. And I'll absolutely come on to that. But to answer your question, in terms of the old Freddie, and I think often about the old Freddie. So let's rewind 10 years. I was living in the UK. I mean, it's nice of you to call me a young man. I'm 42 now. So let's call it when I was 32. Living in the UK, a corporate job where I had to do what everybody tells you you're supposed to do. You have to get up every morning, squeeze yourself onto the commuter train, to sit in a box, to do the job that you don't want to do, to get the respect of the people that you don't really like, to earn the money that you can't even see, to buy the things that you don't even want. I was living this life because I thought it was what I was supposed to do. I thought this was the life I was supposed to live. And because maybe if we have time, we'll dig deeper into the backstory. But in terms of my life, I thought that this was who I was supposed to be. I had a very chaotic upbringing. There was lots of alcohol, lots of chaos in my family, in my household. So all I wanted as a child was to have a stable job with a stable paycheck in a nice office and do like these grown up things, but I got this. And as I went forward in this career, I had to become someone that I wasn't. I felt crippled by imposter syndrome. I was
Mm.
in this corporate office environment where I thought, when am I going to get found out? When are people going to realize that I'm not good enough? When are people going to say, hang on, what's this guy doing here? And because I was worried that I was going to get found out, I tried to be more of an extrovert. And they say that everyone has a talent in life. Quite early in my career, I found out that I had a talent for drinking. And all of a sudden, the networking events and the team building events and the client events and the Monday drinks and the midweek drinks and the Friday drinks and the everything drinks, I thought, hang on, if I start drinking, then I can be more extroverted, that I can be more lively, then people will start to like me. So this path took me on this took me up the career ladder. I traveled around the world. I had quite a high powered, quite stressful job, and for a while on the surface, everything looked really good. I had the Porsche on the driveway. I had the Rolex on the wrist. I had the granite in the kitchen. I had the young family. And you would look at my life and think, wow, that guy, Freddie, he looks like he's doing everything. But inside I was falling apart. As I was drinking more, the stories that we all know, the one drink turned into the 5 drinks, which turned into the couple of drinks before you went out, which then turned into the tactics like we'd be out at a drinking event, and then I would have to leave that drinking event, that networking event, to go and attend a friend's birthday party, even though there was no friend. It was just me going and drinking in another bar on my own. And I carried on this pattern, and I thought I was hiding. I thought I was hiding it, but then the hours at work got longer, the stress got greater, the lunches got bigger, the serves got larger, and then I found myself in this position in my early 30s. And I woke up one morning and I looked in the mirror and I had I'd missed work again. When I say I woke up, it was more I regained consciousness in a strange hotel room at a grey hotel in a grey and rainy part of the UK next to a grey highway, and I kind of staggered my way. As we all know, those moments, I staggered my way to the bathroom, kicking miniature bottles from the mini bar out of the way. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I saw this person. I saw the beer belly hanging over his underwear. I saw the bloodshot eyes, the yellow nicotine stained teeth, the wrinkles, the grey hair, the beer belly and everything. And I thought, who is this guy? This was not how it was supposed to go. This was not how it was supposed to be. And I'd ignored all of the warning signs that had been running up to this. I'd missed flights. I'd got into trouble at work. I'd been blackout, blind drunk in a Middle Eastern country where alcohol's illegal. I'd found myself in the wrong place at the wrong time in New York City with drug dealers holding a loaded gun to my head. And all these warning signs I'd just been ignoring and saying, oh, everyone does this. It's fine. I'm not that bad. I haven't got a problem. It's fine. I tried I'm not going to drink spirits. I'm not going to drink during the week. I'm not going to do this. I'm only going to have 5 drinks. I tried everything. And then it was that morning where I looked at myself in the mirror and I didn't recognize the person I saw. I thought, this is not how your life is supposed to go. If you want the things you always said that you wanted in your life, then you're going to have to do something that you've never done before. And that's when, in many ways, I embarked upon the scariest, most challenging, toughest adventure of my life, which was an adventure into sobriety.
Wow. Very well spoken. Many of the words I recognize very well. Situation that you've touched upon. No, I can't beat the drug dealers with the gun to the head. No, I haven't done that. But otherwise, yeah, been there, done that, vomited on the t-shirt.
Yes.
God. Okay. Radio. So how old were you when that
So I was,
moment of realization came?
So that moment of realization, I was the moment I actually stopped drinking and stayed stopped. I was 36. I tried and failed. I had so many Monday mornings when I said, right, this is it. This is the moment. This is the time that I'm going to change my life forever.
Yeah.
Then the thoughts come into your head. You say, right, I am going to change. right after the next birthday, right after the next team networking event, right after the next project, right after the next Christmas, and then
Yeah.
after the next party, I'm gonna stop drinking forever. Oh, but there's that wedding in a fortnight's time. But
Yeah.
after that, that's it. I am done.
Yeah.
I would have these time and time and time again.
Freddie, though, let's not be silly. There is a reason that you drink. What what did the drink give you? You were alluding to that. It was allowing you to get outside your skin, to be more extrovert, to be more maybe recognized, to maybe to escape your reality, to escape the pressure.
Definitely.
What was
It's a great question, and it's a question that I've asked myself many times. I believe there's two reasons, what I call a surface level and a core reason. The surface level reason was why I thought I drank, which was exactly as you say. I felt like an imposter. I felt socially awkward and anxious. I felt like I needed a confidence boost.
Mm,
I felt that people wouldn't like me unless I was the life and soul of the party. And like many of us who have experienced a spectrum of alcohol use, should we say, we say things to ourselves like, "I'm an all or nothing personality. I don't have an off switch. I like to be the life and soul of the party." And I believed all these things, and I thought I need to have a drink. And I was very good at being the guy who walks into the bar and everyone goes, "Yay, Freddie's here." I even had a name for myself. And this is how bad it's at. I called myself Funtime Freddie. And I created this Funtime Freddie. Yay, Funtime Freddie's here. Now the party's starting. And the truth is, I loved it. I
of course.
felt like I felt like a celebrity. I felt like a rock star. I enjoyed that feeling of being this almost this superhero,
Mm,
super alcohol hero who could make presentations, who could make people laugh, who could get people's attention, who people enjoyed being around. And I thought it was alcohol that gave me that, which is why I drank more and more and more.
mm,
With that deeper, that core reason, the second reason, I believe it was because I was deeply unhappy in my life. I was living a life that wasn't true to myself. I was doing a job that I didn't want to do. I
mm,
was being a person who I didn't want to be. And I believe that we all have this path in our lives where we have to be aligned to our true nature,
mm,
the talents we were born with, who we
mm,
truly are.
mm,
The further away we are from that, the further we try and not be aligned to our true nature.
mm.
The more unhappy, the more confused, the more stuck that we feel. And I was so far away from the person who I wanted to be. It felt like I was wearing a mask every day, saying,
Mm.
who do my colleagues need me to be today? Who does my partner need me to be? Who does my boss need me to be? You know, you have to paint the smile on and say, "Ah, well, this is who, if I want to make the sacrifices, if I want to have the nice things, if I want to have the house and the mortgage and impress
Mm.
the parents and be someone my kids are proud of, I have to go and live this life." And because I hated this life,
Mm.
that's why I drank. I drank because I was punishing myself. I was punishing myself because I hated myself. I hated myself because I knew I wasn't being true to that person who I was really meant to be.
At the same token, money needs to come in. At the
Mm,
same token, there are the societal pressures there. Now, very much given that that there are many industries where
mm,
alcohol is a quintessential part of your making business deals, of it is very hard. Certain industries are very, very wet when it comes to that. And so it's hard to suddenly change your outside,
mm.
change the way, swim against the stream, so to speak. Did How did that go?
It's you're absolutely right. Then and my industry was one of the I love the way you call it a wet industry because mine I don't think you could get wetter than the my industry. It was very much, drinks with the boss, drinks with the team, drinks with the client. You
Mm,
had to be a team player. You were told the importance of building relationships, and especially in the UK, And I know it's the same in much of the Western world and here in New Zealand as well. You're told if you want to be part of the crowd, then you need to be part of the crowd at the bar.
Mm.
Here's something interesting I found, because I felt stuck, and I believe many people feel stuck because I wanted to change. I recognized I was going down the wrong path, but I felt stuck because I thought, well, I want to stop drinking, but I can't stop drinking because
Mm.
it'll impact my career and then the money and then the mortgage and the family and so on. But here's the thing about feeling stuck. When we feel stuck in our lives, it is because we are making a false assumption. It's because we are assuming something to be true,
Mm.
that it's actually true. So I was feeling stuck because I was making a false assumption. I can't be successful in my career unless I drink. That was a false assumption. We see this in relationships. People feel stuck in a relationship because they make a false assumption that nobody else would ever like me. We feel stuck in sobriety in our journey to sobriety because we say, I want to stop drinking, but no one would like me if I was sober. That's a false assumption. So we always feel stuck in life when we make a false assumption. So a key part of getting unstuck is examining our assumptions and saying, well, actually, is this true? And that's when I started looking at a number of my assumptions.
Nice.
And
Nice.
is my career really linked to alcohol? Because we know that probably won't be a news flash to your listeners, but alcohol inhibits performance. It's crazy that if you don't drink, you're smarter, you get up earlier, you're more switched on, you're more punctual, you can be more productive. But we say, no, I need to have the alcohol to be better at my job. Yeah, I looked at people in my career who didn't drink, who were very successful. We see now in the wider business world, you won't see Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Bill Gates falling out of a nightclub and being sick in the street at 2 o'clock in the morning. But I was saying, no, I need to do this, otherwise I won't be successful. And there was also the deeper false assumption, which only came to me actually after I'd gone through a period of sobriety, which was, wow, I'm telling myself I need to drink to be successful at this career that I don't actually want to be successful in, that I don't actually want to be doing. And then there's I'm not a psychologist, but then there is the deeper question: was there a level of self-sabotage there somewhere that I didn't want to be in this role? I didn't want to be in this life. And I was thinking to myself, and this was almost came to the stage with my career: if I get myself in enough trouble, then am I just going to get fired? And finally, they're going to put me out of my misery. Because we've all been there. I think any of us who have gone deep into that wet corporate career, should we say, we've all had the moments where you think, oh, I think I've done it. I think I've really done it this time. I think I'm really in trouble, because we've all had the excuses and the calling in sick and the close calls and the Zoom call where the camera's off because you're lying in bed and with your ice pack on your head and all these things. We've all had those moments, even if it isn't in the business world, but in our lives, with relationships, with police, with everything. We've all had those moments where we think, oh no, I've really pushed it too far. And then somehow we escape because drinkers are very resourceful, very creative, very tenacious. That's what I would anyone who's had a drink problem, I would give them a job in my new business, because I know having a drink problem takes a lot of determination and a lot of creativity. And people who have a drink problem absolutely do not quit. They will find a way to have that drink. So we all know how talented we are, and we have to use our talents to get ourselves out of some difficult situations. And this was, and I'll bring it back on track. But this was me thinking, how can I kind of escape this? How can I escape this vicious cycle of actually creating a life that I wanted to live? And funnily enough, it wasn't about willpower for me. And maybe we'll come on to this, but after failing 1,000 times, after failing to stop drinking 1,000 times, the one time it worked, it wasn't about willpower. It was about creating a new version of myself and that person that I wanted to be.
Having said that, that can be the biggest challenge because you have been living on external validation. You have been living on in your corporate world on working hard, being the husband, being the driven executive, being there's so many roles we take on. Often we have lost that playful, youthful, joyful you. Then you have created this kind of monster lumbering around, and then you try to somehow stop that monster, and then there is nothing. Did you experience that, or what? I mean, in my case, when I came out of rehab, I was an empty shell because I didn't know who I was. Who was Stephan? And I finally recognized it as a huge opportunity because it was an empty canvas. I could paint any painting I wanted. And I tried a few things, a few new suits, so to speak. And well, some of them turned out, I'm not a very resourceful handyman, for example. So for me, being an artist, creating a statue, stick with your day job, Stephan. Okay, I found out what I was not. Was there something like that for you? How did you find out who was Freddie?
It's a really interesting question, and there's an interesting area of this that I've researched and that I've built as part of my philosophy, I suppose you could say, which is maybe different to how other people would see it, and it's linked back to something I touched on earlier about our true nature. Now, I believe that we are all born a certain way. We are born with certain talents, certain personality traits. We're born with the things that we like, the things that we don't like. And obviously we can change our skills and everything else. But in terms of who we are, our true nature cannot change. And many of the times when I tried to stop drinking and I failed, was firstly, I tried to make it about willpower, which is never going to work, because effectively I was saying, I still really want to drink, but I'm gonna white knuckle it, and I'm gonna just tell myself, I want to drink, but you can't have a drink, and I want to drink, but you're not gonna have a drink. And eventually, as we know, willpower is finite. It runs out after a while. But the impact about the true nature I found interesting, because when I tried to stop drinking, I also tried to kill who I really was, and that was a mistake. So to bring that to life for you, as I say, I was and again, I describe myself as an all or nothing personality type, someone who doesn't have an off switch, someone who is quite extreme, someone who is deep down quite outgoing. All these parts of me, when I took my first steps into sobriety, I tried to kill, I tried to hide. So I'm an all or nothing type of person who likes to be social, who likes to be outgoing. But in sobriety, I was saying, no, 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 you need to stay indoors. You need to be reading books. You need to be journaling. You need to be doing all these things. And the real twist for me was actually thinking, how can I lean into my true nature, but just redirect it? So how could I still be that outgoing, all or nothing, no off switch type of person, but just be that person who doesn't drink anymore? Because so many times I believe we try and kill our true nature, and then if we try and hide it, then it will come out in different ways, in ways that we do not want it to come out. An example being, it's like if you try to build a house on top of the roots of an oak tree. Doesn't matter what color carpet you put in your lounge, sooner or later that oak tree is going to come bursting through your floor, whether you like it or not. And I believe that so many people who struggle with sobriety, because this was myself as well, we think, oh, I need to be someone else. I'm there with my juice cleanses. I need to become, as we see it, boring. And that was the word that came to me. Oh, I need to be boring now. And I was saying to other people, I used to be fun. I used to be drinking. And then I was almost apologizing to them. I'd say, oh, yes, sorry, I'm boring these days. Oh, no, I'm like an old man at home these days. And the fact I was trying to be, again, someone who I wasn't, I was apologizing. I was never going to stick to my sobriety then. If I'm approaching my life by firstly apologizing to people, by firstly saying, oh, I'm boring now, that part in our mind, that mischievous, devilish part that I believe seeks chaos in our lives, is always going to say, I don't like being boring. I'm not a boring kind of guy. I know what I'll do. I'm going to have just the one drink, just the one, just to see what it's like again, just to remind myself. So that's why I had to get a bit angry. I had to say, no, this is who I am. I'm not going to hide away from this thing. If I am a person who has an all or nothing mindset, if I'm a person who likes being in the action, I am not going to let this alcoholism keep me in the shadows. I'm not going to hide away. I'm going to have to go out there. I'm still going to have this all or nothing approach to life. I'm still going to be creative. I'm still going to seek energy. I'm just going to do it in a way that doesn't involve alcohol. And that's probably what led me to doing things like running across the desert. But I believe there are many people out there who call themselves the life of the party, the all or nothing person, and they come unstuck when they think, I can't be the life and soul of the party anymore. I can't be an all or nothing person because that's a bad thing to be. And now I need to go and be boring. And that's where we become unstuck. So this is about leaning into your nature, embracing who you truly are, pouring rocket fuel on who you are, turbocharging who you are, just doing it in a way that doesn't involve alcohol.
Nice, nice. Were you always a man who was into physical activity? Were you a runner beforehand?
Absolutely not. I still don't call myself a runner most of the time, and this is where the running community starts to get very upset. I'd rather be honest. I hate running. I only run half the time so I can look good naked. I find it boring. I found it difficult, but I did find it very good for my mental health, and I did find it very useful to not drink a bottle of Jack Daniels every night. But no, I wasn't one of these running types. I wasn't into health or fitness. My childhood was I was in and out of hospital. I've got a chronic lung condition. I wasn't sporty at school. I was ironically the child at school who you would find in the library, not on the sports field every day. When obviously a heavy drinking problem doesn't help the health and fitness side of it. I tried to run one marathon back in 2012. This was the London Marathon.
Yeah.
When I was in the height of my drinking days, I'd just turned 30. My first child was about to be born, and I was the person who said, "Oh, I'd be running." And I remember I was thinking about this the other day. I'd get round the final corner to my house, and I'd think, "Oh, I think about the bottle of wine and maybe the 10 cans of strong beer I could have." And my mouth would start salivating. I'd be, "Oh, yes, I've earned this. I've earned the run." Sometimes, Stephan, I'd even take a cigarette with me on a run so I could give myself I call myself like a lung turbocharger. That's how little of an athlete I was. I did the London Marathon. Everyone says, it's very London. Oh, darling, the London Marathon. Oh, it's fabulous, darling. Oh, the crowd. Oh, the atmosphere. This was the worst bloody day of my life. It took me 6 hours. I cried. I hurt myself. It gave me an excuse to drink the whole weekend afterwards. So no, I was not a runner. When I even in the first months of my sobriety, I could not run a mile. I couldn't run. I'd had 10 years. The only thing I could run was a bar tab.
Yeah.
So there was zero fitness.
Having said that, do you go from 0 to running a marathon? Sorry, did you just hear what you just said? Okay, so come on, man. So there is a genetic predisposition there that actually your body can lean into. There are people who can say, okay, let's just go for a little run, and then 42 Ks later, they are thinking about the wine. So for me, no, that is. Goodness. I mean, as is my body type is very different. It's interesting to hear your attitude towards the running, because many people who I have come across and who were guests on my show have used the running either as running away from their problems, or when you dig deep inside, then actually they go into a serenity, Zen-like state during the running, which is really like a kind of a state of meditation, infused by the endorphins that at some stage kick in. Is that still something that you experience? especially the endorphin kick on the longer runs.
There is, and I jest about it slightly, and obviously I must like running because I do quite a lot of running these days. I like run across deserts and to the North Pole, but I also think that there's also a stereotype that it's worth breaking, that we all know who a running type of person is, and that isn't me. But yes, there are benefits. I do get the endorphins. But I do think also for me, and I think there's an interesting and common link between people who stop drinking and start running, and I'm always fascinated by that. But again, I do believe that it is something around embracing our nature. And you think about a marathon drinking session or a marathon running session, there is something along. And I love what you say around. People have asked me this before: am I running from something, or am I running to something? And I think we have that element of escaping our demons. And an interesting observation I made, because I ran my first 100-mile ultramarathon this year, not far from where you are actually, the Tarawera ultramarathon, 100 miles, and
Wow.
for 100 miles non-stop. And it's interesting, if you stand on the start line of a 100-mile ultramarathon, there are no normal people there. Everyone, and it's really interesting. Everyone has got some history of addiction. They have a disorder, or they've recovered from a disorder, be it mental or some kind of physical disorder, like an eating disorder. Many people have had mental health challenges, and this whole subject fascinates me. That there is something in our brains that compels a certain type of person to put their bodies through these challenges. And it's interesting, as I say, they're not all ex-drinkers, but everyone will have been to some kind of rehab, some kind of recovery. They would have had serious mental health challenges. They would have had trauma or abuse in their life. And like I say, there is no one normal. And looking at that start line, I thought, what if we stopped saying, but we're all broken? What if we stopped saying there's something wrong with us? What if we stopped saying that all these stories of our pasts, and because this happened to me, or because I did that, because we carry around so much guilt and shame. And I carried around so much, all of the things as drinkers, we've all done some things that we're not proud of. But what if we stopped carrying around that? What if we let it go? What if we said, the greatest opportunities of our life are still ahead of us? And and I thought, I looked at all these people on this 100-mile start line, and I thought, what if, instead of saying how bad we are, how bad we've been, what about how amazing we are? We have this amazing talent to put our bodies and our minds through this crazy endurance adventure. And again, that is about leaning into who we are, rather than just staying at home on the couch saying, oh, because I did that thing 10 years ago, woe is me, and I'm still beating myself up. This is about leading who we are. And again, as I said at the start, I know not many normal people or sane people would like to run a 100-mile race, but for someone else, maybe this is leading into who you are creatively. Someone who was using alcohol as, like a writer or an artist who's used alcohol in the past. This is about leading into your creativity. For someone else, it may be leading into entrepreneurship. It may be leading into travel. It doesn't have to be crazy running adventures, but it is about leaning in to what your true nature is and who you truly are.
Well, I would like to comment two things here. First of all, normal people scare me. That is no. All the people that I surround myself with, and as I love speaking to, the weirdos, the people who have broken the norm of society, who have swum against the stream. Because these are the people whose life show transformations and the breakthroughs, and I think that is so beautiful. And I could not agree more with you. I've just written a book chapter called "PTSD is My Superpower." It is not yes, nasty things have occurred to us, and we have done often nasty things in response to fucked up core beliefs or to childhood trauma, to a lot of reasons, intergenerational trauma that is still passed down the line. There are so many things that are flooding our system and that potentially can lead us astray. At the same token, these can be our greatest gifts if we actually harness the power of this being driven, this being restless, trying to find something, that trying to give meaning to the suffering that we often have gone through. And once you act, scheiße, I got goosebumps actually saying that. It is just so powerful when you actually get there to this point, and it's the point when your bow is pulled all the way back, the way back. You're just about to release that arrow, and you just need to figure out, where the hell do you want to aim? Who do you want to be when you grow up? And that is such a powerful thing. And so few of us get to that point, and you are there. You've got to that, and it sort of suited you. And I loved it how you came back to trying to figure out what were your natural traits, what was actually hidden underneath the surface. And you then nourished that little plant. You gave it water, you gave it food. But I mean, there is you started from a podgy beer belly to running. Now I'm 57. I actually thought, hey, I would like to get back into running. Fuck me. My Achilles tendinitis very quickly told me, yeah, right. You want to run more than 4Ks? Yeah, let's laugh about that, shall we? But what do you do with injuries? And you were saying with the London Marathon, you hurt yourself. What do you do there? And what do you recommend others?
I mean, thankfully, touch wood, I don't get injured too often. But again, it's funny with the physical injuries and the mental injuries. I used to get injured a lot more when I was drinking and I would try to run, because again, wow, I was just thinking, I used to go to the gym drunk sometimes. I had a couple of times when I was away with work, I would be drinking all night and think, oh, I need to be at work in 90 minutes time. I'll go to the gym and maybe I'll see one of my coping habits. I'll see my boss in the gym, and he'll say, oh, that's a good young worker there. What must I have looked like in the gym after drinking all night, just kind of swaying around? But to answer your question, I do think it's about balance, which I will accept I really struggle with, again, as someone who is proudly unbalanced, who is proudly quite all or nothing. And I think there's some key takeaways here for our sobriety journey as well. That it is about patience. So when I'm training, I want it all. I'm very go go go. I'm not very good at doing things, no half measures, as they say. Like I say, a glass of wine. No, we'll have the bottle. Obviously, you can't put a bottle back in the fridge once it's opened. I take that approach to my training and my injuries. So learning patience is something that is a real challenge, which helps me overcome injuries. And I do believe this with sobriety as well, because there will be moments when we either fall off the wagon, or we certainly bounce along the road for a bit as we go along. To try and probably murder that wagon metaphor, one link with injuries and sobriety is that if I get an injury, if I'm training or if I'm running, there is a temptation to power through, to keep going. And that, I know, will actually cause me more injuries and more damage in the long run. With sobriety, it was very much the same. So in my early days, I would try and stop drinking. And like I say, I proudly failed 1,000 times. It took me 5 years to finally find that one time that worked. But usually what would happen is we'd make the promises. That's it. Not going to drink. Friday night comes around. Not going to drink, not going to drink, not going to. Oh, okay, then I'll have one. And it's like the metaphor is with a car. If you're driving your car and you get a flat tire, do you fix the problem and go on with your journey? Or do you get a knife and slash the other 3 tires and say, well, that's it. I told you so. I told you I was never going to do this. And that's what we do. We fall off the wagon on a Friday and we think, well, that's it. Might as well. Now I've had one. I might as well go for it. And then you wake up on Saturday and think, well, I feel bad now. I know what will make me feel better. Let's have, and then, well, the weekend's a write-off. Let's just have some fun. But then Monday, that is the day when things are going to change. So there's very common here. What is physical injuries? Ironically, they're both self-imposed. But the whole point with the physical training injuries or the sobriety destroying alcohol-related injuries that we do to ourselves, they are mainly self-imposed. But it's a case of saying, I've got this situation where I've done myself some damage. What am I going to do next? Am I going to be patient with myself and do the right thing and maybe do the thing that doesn't feel the easiest? Or am I going to actually make a commitment? Am I going to keep this promise I've made to myself? Am I going to be patient with myself? And am I going to do the right things to put myself back on the road, back on my journey?
That's very, very true. And I love it. I love it the way you put that and how you show the example of doing what is possible within your limits, at the same token, not accepting these limits as an absolute, because what your limits are today, in 6 months' time, they might be very, very, very different. Because it is the issue of, or it is the topic of the 5-minute gardener. If you spend from now on every day, if you spend 5 minutes in your garden, never less, never more. After a week, you see a difference. You've weeded here, you've planted there, etc. You see a difference. After a month, your family says, wow, our garden looks good. After 3 months, you've got bus tours coming along who is looking at your garden. That's because you're consistent in your effort. It's not that one's going to the gym, lifting all the maximum of on the rack, and then hurting yourself and then don't going back. It is you consistently and intentionally living your life and gently pushing that envelope. And that is where the magic occurs, creating the habits in your life, creating the willingness to show up. And 80% of success is showing up. And that's what we are so bad in, is the limitations that we put upon ourselves, the imposter syndrome, all this kind of negative talk. My goodness. And I'm the master in that. Do you still get imposter syndrome now?
Yes, I mean, absolutely. And it's funny, and picking up on, I love what you said earlier about we judge ourselves, and many times we base our ability to exceed. We base our ability to succeed on a previous version of ourselves. So we look at a challenge that we want to overcome, be that a sobriety challenge, maybe it's writing a book, maybe it's an adventure, maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's a business. And we think to ourselves, am I going to make this work? Am I going to succeed? But we're basing our ability to succeed on a previous version of ourselves. I believe the world is not as it is. The world is as we see it. And how we see the world depends on how we see ourselves. And we have a choice. Do we see ourselves based on who we were or who we are going to become? And that is the choice that we have. And I was choosing to see myself as the previous version for so long. And that's why I always suffered from imposter syndrome. And this goes wider than running, because I think many of us, when we go through the sobriety steps, and we've gone on this sobriety journey, that's usually when we start to look at the job or the relationship or the place where we live. And that's when we start to think to ourselves, well, hang on, if I can stop drinking, I wonder what else I can change in my life. And that's generally what we see. And I say this as someone who left the corporate world, who moved 12,000 miles from the UK, who did so many new things in my life after I stopped drinking. But the imposter syndrome is always there, and it's around you stop drinking, but you couldn't move to New Zealand, you couldn't start a business, you couldn't start a new relationship or any of these things. And there's something really powerful about imposter syndrome. And I looked into this as I tried to understand myself better, as I tried to understand my true nature. Newton's third law is that every force has an equal and opposite force pushing against it. So as far as we try and propel ourselves forward in our lives, there is an equal and opposing force within us trying to pull us back. And that's what imposter syndrome is. That is the inner enemy. So for all of us who say, right, I want to start a new job, I want to change my life, I want to accomplish these goals, there is an equal and opposite force within us saying, no, 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 that's not for you. You can't do that. That's not something you can achieve. That's for other people. That's for successful people. That's for confident people. That's for people with more money or better childhoods or anything else. There is this part within us, and I say it's imposter syndrome, but I label it as the inner enemy. It's our part X. It's our worst enemy. But it's like having a worst enemy who knows the greatest hits album of all your weaknesses,
Oh,
your
yes.
problems, and everything else.
Oh, yes.
Our brains try and keep us safe. Our brains try and keep us comfortable. But growth does not happen in times of comfort. Growth happens in times of discomfort. So anything we want in our life, whether it is to start a relationship or a business or move halfway around the world or start running, it means we have to choose discomfort, because it means getting up a bit earlier, or maybe looking foolish, or doing something new, or doing something different. All these things are uncomfortable in the short term, and our brain is there saying, whoa, 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 we don't like discomfort. We prefer comfort around here, because our brains are hardwired to keep us alive. Our brains know that statistically, we are more likely to stay alive if we stay within our comfort zone. And that's when the imposter syndrome, when the inner enemy, when this part X comes out and says, that thing you're about to do, don't do it. Whatever you do, don't do it. Stay here where it's comfortable. But that's why, yes, I always get imposter syndrome. But also, what if we looked at imposter syndrome in a different way? What if you looked at it as an indicator that you were on the right path? When that voice comes up in your head saying, you can't do that, you're not good enough, you're too old, you made too many mistakes, you're too much of a failure. What if you saw that voice as an indicator that what you are about to do was the right thing? Because we all wait for the confidence, we all wait for the breakthrough, the motivation, but the truth is, confidence shows up after we take the action, not before. And that's why we try and get the motivation to stop drinking. We try and get the confidence to stop drinking. The motivation, the confidence does not appear until after we've started the sobriety journey, not before.
Beautifully said. I love that you've reframed the imposter syndrome as a natural force and maybe as something positive. And that is actually, wow, that is a lovely way of reframing things, of looking at the challenges that we all face deep inside ourselves in a new way. And I think that is again an ability that develops after you have gone through trauma, you've gone through darkness, that you actually learn to see the positive in seemingly negative things, because the world does not suddenly become rosy and everything smells nice and is gorgeous and there's no more death, no more illness, no more trauma, no more nothing. No, the world is a heap of shit at the moment. And if at all in 2023, there was a saying a while ago where, we stop saying what the fuck, we say what the 2020. And then 2021 came along, and then 2022 and 2023, and it hasn't got much better, actually. So I think we need to realize that only because we change, the world around us does not change. But
I love that. Steph, I was to say quickly on that, I 100% agree with you in what you were saying about language, because right at the start of this, you mentioned coming at things like a victim, and that's exactly how I did. And it is, I learned as well, it is our language is a clear giveaway to how we think and to how we approach the world. So a victim will always say, why? Why me? Why is this happening? Why can't I stop drinking? Why can't I make more money? Why do people always leave me? An owner, I talk about the victim versus the owner. An owner won't talk about why. They won't ask why. They will ask how. So you can spot an owner by saying, how do I stop drinking? How do I make more money? How do I have better relationships? And that's always, I notice myself, when I'm dropped into a victim mindset, why is this going wrong in my life? Why is this happening? I was like, no. I'm asking myself the wrong question. I need to be asking how. And that's also where we say it can go even deeper. I say, rather than how do I change drinking? I always say it's not about how, it's about who. So we ask ourselves, how do I stop drinking? The victim says, why is this happening? The owner says, how do I stop drinking? But at a deeper level, we could ask ourselves, it isn't about how, it's about who. Who do I need to be to go into this next version of my life? Who do I need to become? And then I start making decisions as that new version of myself, as the new Freddie, rather than the
yeah. I go one step further, or reframe the last step. Not who do I need to be, because I hate to be pressured. Who do I want to be? Who do I want to be when I grow up? Because then it is my choice. It is something where I can willingly go to, rather than being forced to, and then giving the negative guy in me a chance. See, you're forcing yourself to do that. Don't do that. Be natural. And whatever shit then comes out of my head.
You're absolutely right. I have this, and again, this is a controversial one. You look on social media, and I have a problem with all the people who I love social media, but also the weekend life coaches who just say, change your life, change your mindset, change your habits, as if it was all so bloody easy. But also, I think if we go around with this track playing in our head of, I need to change my life, I need to change my mindset, I need to change my habits, then by default, if we're saying to ourselves, I need to change, then are we saying to ourselves that I am broken as I am? I'm not good enough as I am. Imagine walking around every day saying, I'm broken, I'm broken, I'm broken. How are we supposed to actually create the lives that we would love to create if we have that narrative in our mind? So be it on Instagram or social media, change this, change that. And like, if only you knew how much deeper anyone who has tried to change their life and failed knows. If only it was as easy, just stop drinking, just be more confident, just do this. And I was like, well, I tried that. I read the books, I listened to the podcasts, I went to the seminars, I tried to feel the fear and do it anyway. I even practiced the subtle art of not giving a fuck, and none of it worked. None of it worked because I thought I was broken. It wasn't until I changed the way I saw myself that I started to actually become the person who I knew that I was capable of becoming.
And that is really, if you want to use a different language, that is where self-love really comes home. This is where ultimately we accept who we truly are, warts and all. And I love to say, I love the way you talk about the weekend, not warriors in this case, the weekend coaches. So yes, you're right. There is so much more to it. But at the same token, once you begin to live intentionally, once you begin to make small little changes, create new small habits, only make 1% change a day, which is tiny. 1% of your day is about 15 minutes, if you think about it. So that's a tiny amount. Can you invest 15 minutes into the new you? And I dare to say to anyone out there, you will find 15 minutes in your day to actually make a change. However busy you are, whatever you do, whatever pressures you are under, I dare to say that you could find the time. And I dare to say that you have got the power within you to actually change. The question is, what do you want to do? Who do you want to become when you grow up? And I think that is the key thing. This is no longer why me, and the how is quite nice, but if you don't know who you want to be, the how sometimes can get you lost a little bit. So how about you guys out there thinking about what would be something that you truly, truly, truly would love to do? And make the space, maybe the first 15 minutes after you switched here off, pressed the like and subscribe button, and told us how cool this interview was. Maybe those 15 minutes, just sit down, close your eyes, and imagine. Just actually don't imagine anything. Just quiet your mind and see what kind of future suddenly comes to you, and who this new person could be. And then you can answer the question, or you can ask the question, well, how do I get closer to that version of myself? Because that was you. You basically figured out that I actually you probably wanted to prove yourself. You wanted to actually go out there and do with the running. There was probably an element of running away initially. There was probably an element of however we frame it, it didn't matter. You did it. You actually took action. You actually went out there and started doing things. And it didn't stop there. You don't just go running and that's it. You can now run through the Arctic and still smoke, drink, eat shit. Doesn't work like that. So your life's gently changed. And now, one thing I need to ask, we are all living not isolated in little silos, but we live with a family. And often there is a degree of codependency. You know, if you have been a drinker and you were fun Freddie and all this person, what did your significant other think about you suddenly changing?
It's a really interesting question, and this is where I always believe there's a Hollywood version and a real life version, because we all know the way the story's supposed to go. We know that we're supposed to say, "Oh, I stopped drinking, and the relationship was better, and the family. I have a wife and two boys." And the family turns around and says, "Oh, we've got the old dad back," and it's like a Disney movie, and I'm on the sofa, and we're all laughing, like, "Ha ha ha, we love you, Dad." The truth was very different. It was, and this is why I say that sobriety is not a silver bullet. We fall into the trap of thinking, if I stop drinking, then everything in my life just becomes sunshine and unicorns and rainbows. It wasn't the case at all. My sobriety caused me to take a long, hard look at not just my marriage, but also my friendships, because as we all know, we hang around people who maybe aren't good for us.
Oh yeah.
See that old version of ourselves. My wife, the guy she married, was a relatively high flying, Porsche driving corporate executive who was used to buying bottles of champagne and all these things. And then all of a sudden I said, I'm not that guy anymore, which I think was a period of change for both of us as well. And I think actually and this is why it's almost difficult to say, I was in many ways more difficult to live with when I was sober than when I was drunk, and just in a different way, because I think my family obviously enjoyed the fact that I didn't go out on Saturday and say, I'm going to go for one drink, I'll be home at 7 o'clock, and then fall through the door 18 hours later with my eyes wide and not quite knowing who I was or where I was. They were quite glad that version of me didn't exist anymore. But a real journey of sobriety involves a lot of shame. It involves guilt. It involves introspection, which can be painful and can be difficult. And I got quite angry with myself. And I worked with a really interesting coach a couple of years back, and he was like, all of the anger that you've got inside you. And I said, me? You must be. I'm not an angry person. I'm fun time Freddie. I like having the fun and I make the jokes. I tell the stories. I'm not an angry person. And then I sat with it. And for a long, long time, I thought, I'm not an angry person. And then I looked at my home life and I was snappy. I was angry. I was short tempered. I was
Mm.
grumpy person who I never wanted to be. And I thought, where is this anger coming from? And it was because I was carrying a lot of shame around with me for things I
Mm.
past. And also I was, it's interesting. I believe that I was also mourning the old version of myself. I
Mm.
was angry
Mm.
that I had to say goodbye to that previous version of me, the fun time Freddie, the old me. Because the truth is, I miss that guy sometimes. People don't like talking about this, but I face it head on. I miss that fun version of myself. I miss the buzz. I miss the adrenaline boost. I miss the ego boost of everyone going, "Yay, here he is," and knowing we all know that feeling, that kind of that fizzy excitement at 6 o'clock on a Saturday night where you don't quite know what's going to happen, but you think it's going to be exciting until the next day when you just hate yourself. All those feelings I kind of missed. And when I ran through the desert, I knew I killed that old version of myself and I buried him in the desert. But I think I still carried some anger,
Mm.
maybe some victimhood. So why me? Why can't I be that person who just has a couple? Why can't I be that person who, and I still look at those people now who will just have a glass. And I'm like, what? That's so unfair. Why can't I do that? How come you could just have a glass and have a good time and then say,
No.
oh, it's 9 o'clock, I'm going to bed now, rather than me who'd be like, come on, shot, nightclub, and then find yourself in a city 100 miles away. I
Mm.
think I did carry some anger and some jealousy that I wasn't that person, and it was only when I accepted that that's not who I am. It's when I accepted that I can't change the things that have
Mm.
happened in the past. That my relationships changed. And look,
Mm.
now my life isn't perfect, but my kids get to say their dad's in the Guinness Book of Records. Their dad's running across the Arctic and all those things. And I will say this, and I say this proudly, and I would encourage everyone who has been on a sobriety journey and has children or anyone significant in their life to say, you know what, I back myself. I know I'm a bloody good dad. And I haven't been in the past. I may have been a six-figure employee, but I wasn't a six-figure father. I wasn't a six-figure husband. I wasn't a six-figure friend. I didn't have six-figure habits. I didn't get six-figure sleep. But I can't change that now. All we can
Mm.
change is today and
Mm.
decide who we're going to be tomorrow. And so it's always a bit, a bit emotional there, but like when I think of who we can become, it's never too late to become the person who you were always meant to be. And
Mm.
that's who I try and become every day
Mm.
as a partner, as a father, as a friend, and as a son.
Mm. And I love it. I'm so grateful for the way you've put that, because in its own right, recovery from alcoholism or being now in sobriety can be its own trauma when you actually are forced to face your shortcomings in the
Mm,
past. And when, as part of you making amends, you actually shut up and begin to listen to your children or to your wife or to whoever else you have harmed without intending, but nevertheless, I mean, as an addict, you are a wrecking ball in not just in your own life, you're in many other lives that you touch.
mm,
And when you then have to face that, that can become its own, trauma, real trauma. And that therefore is another reason why I say it will never stop and it will never get easier. Some things will get easier because you begin to heal and you begin to address certain things. And I love this, the way you said it. You put a certain type of thinking into the grave in the desert. I
mm,
love that, and that is fine. But there will be other traumas because trauma comes in layers. Healing comes in layers. There will be times when you think, wow, I've done it. It's all done, dusted. And then the universe looks down and says, look at him. Look at him. Now, come on.
Yeah.
What else shall we bring to his consciousness? And it is what it is. But then again, with every single challenge that you're facing sober and that you're actually taking on, now you will grow, you will get stronger. Just as much as every time you go to the gym, you will probably put on a little bit of muscle mass, you get that little bit leaner, you get a little bit more used to being in the gym, you get used to exercising your body. It will become a bit more normal. It's just the same thing with the problems, the challenges, the shit that life throws you, the bouts of depression, the panic attacks, the anxiety waves that wash over you. All that will become a little bit more normal because you now recognize for what it is, messages from your body, or just a shit day. You can't have all the time the kind of sugar sweet Coca-Cola advertisement. I feel good. Fuck off. So
no, I totally agree. I try and give a real life view of sobriety, but also, yeah, the contrast is night and day. The world records, the adventures, everything, and I often am extremely grateful. This life that I have now, no one gave it to me. No one gave it to me on a plane. I moved to New Zealand. I knew nobody here. I had no network. I'd never been here before. No family. Everything in my life I created, and I did it the hard way. And none of it would have happened if I was still drinking. And people may probably very intelligent. All your listeners are clearly highly intelligent because they listen to your show and they watch your show. But they are far too intelligent to think, I'm going to run a desert, or I'm going to run 100 miles, or I'm going to move 12,000 miles to a country I've never been to before. But as I said, that was just my journey. Anything that people want to create in their life, be it the book, the relationship, the podcast, the business, the new healthy habit, it is 1,000 times more easier to do that thing when you are not drinking. And this is, if you want to create that life that you truly want, then it's the choice. Do I want the old me or do I want the new me? If I want the new me, then the only way to get it is if I put the bottle down. And that is how we actually create that version of ourselves that we truly love.
Freddie, you're an amazing man. You're an amazing man. You completely captivated me from the word go here in our interview. And there are so many things you said with such eloquence that it puts a big smile on my face. I recognized myself so much in your words. I recognized and I shared so many of your sentiments. You planted so many seeds into the minds of my listeners and viewers. And for that, I'm incredibly grateful, man. Is for sure not the last time that you're here on my show, because you are growing, and it's inevitable that the Freddie in a year's time will be a different man, because by that time in early February you're going to run the Arctic Circle, and that's just nuts. But tell us a bit about that. I mean, this is now not long to go. This is what 3 months.
Now it's what 2.5 months away.
Yeah.
So this is the world's coldest, toughest foot race. So 300 kilometers. So I'm flying from New Zealand to North Sweden into the Arctic Circle, and then you just head north and you run 300 kilometers towards the North Pole. You have to carry all of your food and equipment. It's basically doing 7 marathons in 6 days, because one day is a double marathon. All of your food, all of your equipment for the whole time you have to carry on your back. And
is it on the back or on a sled?
I think it's either. I think it may be on a sled, but there's a lot to carry.
Shit, yeah.
There's if you want to have a drink, your water's frozen. If you want to eat, then your food is frozen. You want to stop, but if you stop, then you start to freeze, and within 5 minutes you get hypothermia and pass out. So it's a race where you can't ever stop. A bit like sobriety in that way, but it's the world's coldest, toughest foot race. The temperatures go down to minus 55. It should be so it should be brutal. But I do this to prove to people. I do it to prove to people that anything is possible. And again, I talk about so much on social media. Everyone is there. Anything is possible. Achieve your goals. Break out of your comfort zone. Everyone bloody talks about it. And I remember when I was trying to change my life and I was trying to get sober, I was sick and fucking tired of everyone just saying to me, step out of your comfort zone, do all the same motivational phrases that you see everywhere. And that's why I prove to people, that is my mission, to prove that everyday people can achieve remarkable things. If I can be where I was and go and do what I've done, that anybody can change their habits and they don't have to run the world's toughest foot race or the world's coldest foot race or break the world record. I'll do that for you. I'll do it to prove to you that with the right mindset, the right knowledge, the right habits, every single one of us can change our lives. And that's why it's important to me to really put my money where my mouth is, to walk the talk, to run the run. Because in a world of people saying the same empty motivational phrases, I want to get real and I want to prove to people that if this guy who was 5 years ago was broken down, stressed, depressed, unfit, overweight, on 2 occasions I attempted suicide, which is somewhere we didn't even get a chance to go to today. I was an extremely damaged, extremely broken person who felt stuck, lost and helpless. And all I had to do, I failed to stop drinking 1,000 times. But you know what? You can fail to stop drinking 1,000 times, but you only have to get it right once. If you get it right once, then your life can change forever because then you win. And that's what I'm on a mission to do, to prove that if you get it right once, you can achieve these remarkable things. Because we all look at the David Gogginses and we look at privileged adventurers and it's great when the billionaire Tony Robbins tells us to do something. But as an everyday guy who was feeling trapped and stuck in his little office job, if I can do this, then all of your viewers, all of your listeners can change their habits and achieve whatever they want.
Wow. Freddie, if people want to find more about you, where can they find you?
The best, but I'll keep it simple for people. The best place is on Instagram. After me now having talking about bad things about Instagram for the last hour, you can find me on Instagram where I tell the truth. It's at the Freddie Bennett. So the FreddieBennett at the Freddie Bennett. I answer all my messages personally. I'm always happy to talk to people because I've been there. I know what it's like. I know it can be confusing. It can be lonely. So yeah, give me a follow on Instagram. And I do have a website, freddiembennett.com as well. But so yeah, either of those. And I'm always happy to connect with people.
Check the links in the description of the YouTube video or of the podcast. It's all down there. Check him out. Follow him because Freddie is a man who puts his money where his mouth is. He puts one foot in front of the other, literally, both in sobriety terms, but also in becoming a different man and growing. And it's a very meandering path. We don't know what is around the corner, but we both are convinced that if we start showing up to start off with, and actually then start creating habits and living more intentionally and going out there with a purpose, very soon your life will change. It's inevitable and it is beautiful. So guys, come along on the journey. This is an amazing journey. I'm honored to have you on my show, Freddie, because you certainly made me reevaluate how I will live the rest of my day today. So it's an amazing thing. So it's a win-win situation for you guys out there. So I'm ever so grateful to you, Freddie, for being a guest on my show. I'm ever so grateful for you guys out there to listen to that, because I am convinced together we can make this world a better place. And we all can put our little 15 minutes, the 1% of the day. Well, let's put that in there and let's just see who we all can become. Freddie, you're an amazing man. I wish you all the energy you need for the training. I wish you all the energy that you need for healing of the daily injuries. How far do you run every day? What is your training schedule?
It depends on the day, but usually in a week I'll run 80 to 100 kilometers. So so it can be painful sometimes, definitely. But,
I betcha. I mean, you're in the lead up. Come on, man.
yeah.
No,
No, what? Thank you for the opportunity. I'm a huge fan of everything that you do, Stephan. You've really built such momentum. You have such an engaged audience and community. You talk about winning. I feel like the winner because I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I've had the amazing opportunity to speak to you today, to speak to all of your fans, your viewers, and your listeners. And I'm truly honored and grateful to have been part of it. So thank you so much for having me, and keep doing all of your amazing work.
Cool. Thank you so much, Freddie. And you guys out there, look after yourself and live with passion. Bye.
I never give up. I never give up. I never give up. Turn around.